up, everybody? This is the Good News Interview. I'm so excited. I got two of my friends, Pastor Joe Basile and Pastor Ryan Penir. They lead a church up in Fresno, California called First Street Church. Pastor Joe, you might recognize, he has a new book out, and also he's been on the History Channel and a few other shows. Actually, one of the finest pieces I've ever watched was what was on the History Channel. Joe, you want to talk about that and your book really fast?
Yeah, sure. History Channel, we did a documentary called The Jesus Strand where they came up with a brilliant idea. It's actually from an interview on CNN. Someone thought, let's make it a show where they're trying to see if you get mitochondrial DNA off of any artifacts, Christian artifacts, people that could possibly be related to Jesus. So like John the Baptist, the James Ossuary, and they went down this great road, and I was honored to get a chance to host that and walk through that. And coming out of that, I decided to start working on some passion projects because I love science in the Bible and I love science fiction in the Bible. So I wrote a sci-fi book that introduces you to the book of Luke and then continues into book. So that's The Last Qumranian. And book 2 is going to be called The Last Prophet, where it's going to take us into the book of Acts in a dystopian present day Israel where Christ never came. So
that is awesome. And then Pastor Ryan, you'd actually, I think half my house is full of his woodworking creations. He is a famous woodworker. He'd probably would be famous because he's so good at it, but he loves God too much, so he doesn't spend that much time on it. Are you still doing anything with wood?
I am. In fact, during quarantine, I actually have relaunched the YouTube channel and done all that. So that has come back to life, as it were.
Nice.
He has
really
over 1 million views on his videos.
I'll throw some of those links up, but I wanted to get you on here because this last Sunday I was at your guys' service through Zoom, through Facebook Live, and it was amazing. You had the first time I've ever seen auto-tune worship, and even as it was playing, I was like, there's something about this. For the first time I've seen a service where worship jumped through the screen and touched me. And that's really hard to do because I watch about 20 churches a week, just going from room to room to room, just seeing what everybody's doing. And that was the first time, or maybe the first or second time where I saw worship was like, okay, there's ways to do this that is so impactful. There was you grab some guys from Chicago and pull them into this room with you. So what I love about you and why I wanted to do this particular interview is in the midst of this where we're all pioneers, there's no books on this. In fact, whoever writes the first book out of this time that we're in right now is probably going to make a lot of money because everybody is learning on the job. And so I see you guys over there just trying new stuff, and I love it. What have you learned right off the bat in the last 7-8 weeks?
Go ahead, Ryan.
It's funny because I think I heard it put really well from a tech company that's here in Fresno called Bitwise. And when this first happened, they got everybody together and they said, look, a couple of our top tier leadership members actually work for Bitwise and are high up in their company. And they were telling me that when it first happened, they said, look, we have always kind of worked at this, but now we get to test it, is that we have to be able to pivot every second of every day. Because a new piece of news came out, especially in the first 3 weeks, there was a new piece of news every single day that shifted what you were supposed to do that day and tomorrow. And so I think we actually spent almost every day, Joe and I and Crystal and kind of our leadership teams, just talking through like, well, what if this is extended? Or what if we actually have to stay at home? It was kind of in the midst of it all going down. And we just constantly changed, and we weren't, I think the thing that we did well, and honestly, we do a lot of stuff really poorly. We have no idea what we're doing like everybody else. But I think the stuff that we do really well is that is the same stuff we did before this quarantine. Is we're not afraid to fail. We're not afraid to try stuff and see what happens. If it works, we'll keep doing it and improve it. If it doesn't work, we just go, it didn't work. Like,
it's true.
We honestly have a lot. There's not as much of us tied up into this to where it's like, if we try something and it's like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing we've ever done, we'd laugh about it instead of taking it to heart and taking it real personal. And it's like, woe is me, the ministry's going to fail. We have an awesome congregation that loves us, and we're like, oh, let's just have fun. Let's have a good time.
I would say the thing that has come out of it with Ryan and I in all of our meetings is that the idea of community versus building. And so when we launched our services, we decided to make them interactive, where we're going to make it about people commenting and build questions into our sermons, because what we're going after is not trying to recapture the feeling of the building. We're trying to establish community. And so even though people were at home, we thought that community was the most essential part of it. So like everybody else, we made the phone calls, called people at home to support them, but there still wasn't that, where are we going to be a community? And so we've been trying to establish online. I think after our Easter service, when our Easter service closed, we had over 1,000 comments on our service at the end of service. And that's really been very intentional for us, is because we said, and even like the thought of coming out of this, the mission again is not how do we get back into the building, how do we build community? So, because some people are going to not want to leave their house, and people will want to leave their house. And so I think that's been the biggest part of it, is a focus on community, wherever that is, versus online or in a building.
Absolutely. It's so one of the things I noticed about you right off the bat, most 90%, 95% of churches try to take their Sunday morning and put it online so you could watch it. Yeah. You guys immediately embraced the moment and said, all right, community is going to win the day. And community is what's going to bring people closer in this time and will actually be stronger when it's done. A lot of people will survive it, and that's what it feels like. In fact, I don't know how many pastors I watched said they can't wait till this is over. I just thought, what an interesting approach. And I swear to you, I watched sermon after sermon after sermon of guys saying, man, I can't wait till this is over. I miss you guys. I love you. I can't wait till we're together. And it sounded so nice, but I'm like, you're not embracing that this is a chance to reach more people than you've ever reached in your life, and community will win the day. And so I love that. I was thinking as Ryan's talking, I'm so used to your background that it doesn't even faze me, but you look like you're in Disneyland.
Oh. I didn't know who you were talking to. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
We had to give tours on our services to go through the mushroom house behind them, because people are like, what is that?
I should say he's my brother-in-law, and so I'm at that house quite often.
Yeah.
But real quick, that's not fake. Tell about that background really fast.
So there's just a lot of fun stuff. My dad is a general contractor. I built this bridge, and again, I'm a woodworker, and so my mom designed this mushroom house, which literally was to look like Disneyland. It was like, what's a fun playhouse and so my mom designed it. She's an artist. My dad's a general contractor, and then I do all the finished carpentry. And so the three of us, we get some stuff done, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
My kids.
What you can't see is there's a pond behind him,
right,
and then a stone pool on his right, and it's literally a pool with a waterfall and all that. And they did all that. They laid all the stone, all of that.
Yeah. And it took multiple attempts because none of us knew what we were doing. So every attempt we go, oh, we did this wrong. And so there's a lot of fixing, which seriously, not to be dumb, not to tie it into church, but that's literally the way we run church, where it's like, let's give this a whirl, and then you tweak it. And I think, and again, just to go back, it is kind of a fun, like the fact that you're saying the community part, we've had dozens of conversations of which one of those routes to go, because early on, one of the hard parts, and Joe and I mean, seriously, we probably just had this conversation last week again, which was our production value isn't really all that high. Like, all of my buddies go into their churches and film it ahead of time, then edit it, and it's like a nice production, and we're in our backyards. Like, literally, this is the exact setting that Joe and I are in on a Sunday morning. So it's not like, I mean, it's and we go live, it's not canned, and so we
go 30 minutes early, right?
Yeah.
And stay 10 minutes late. We're trying to make it like, we put the 30 minutes of just hanging out, and then afterwards we said, you know what, we started saying, it ends too early. People got thoughts. Let's hang out 10 minutes later. That didn't happen this Sunday because I was in the tech booth.
Yeah, a little kerfuffle.
Bad things went down, but we're supposed to hang out. We actually shut down before we took an offering. God's
pretty
good.
Funny. Whatever. But it's been that has been the conversation right there. That's the main one, is like, what do we lean really heavy into? And I still don't know if it's the right one. I just know it's authentic to us. Like, this is who we are. We're
Yeah.
much more relational than we are kind of the polished side of things. I mean, you look at our building, we've been in there for months now, and the thing is not even close to finished, because that's kind of like, that's not our main concern. Our main concern isn't how everything looks. It's that we're authentic. We're exactly who we are. So we'd rather spend time sitting and talking to somebody than painting the wall.
Yeah.
And so that's really where we just leaned into and said, man, we got to be authentic to who we are. So let's just do it this way.
So you hit several subjects. Let me go back over each one. So this model, how has it affected giving? Has giving struggled through it?
And, so giving in the beginning was a little rough, but that was because most people were just holding on to their money because they're not sure where things are going. It has loosened up. It hasn't caught up, but it's better. Even like giving this Sunday, when literally the service shut off before we took an offering, still wasn't bad in an off week. Like, just being honest, like, it's a non-payday week. It wasn't bad at all. And Ryan 2 weeks ago, he did the offering, and I'm going to screw it up. But in general, it was just, we just trust God, and we trust what he's doing in your heart to give. And it was like our best giving, like, since we've been in there. And I think even the way we're approaching this is, we realize you're in a tough spot. We realize you're worried. We're counting on that God's going to move you, and that you're going to give, just like the scripture says, the amount that he's placed on your heart. And that's how we've gone about it. So between the giving, and then we went and got the SBA loan because we thought that was wise. And then obviously a reduced overhead. Some of our costs are lower. So we've been okay.
Yeah. I was talking to a youth pastor this morning, and he was talking about how difficult youth has been because they're in Zoom rooms all day for school.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of going back into a Zoom room at night for a youth group on Wednesday night or whatever, however they do it, he goes, they're really not excited about it. And he said he's tried a few things. He's gone and visited the homes. He's made a lot of phone calls. But every youth pastor I'm talking to so far has said this has actually been a struggle, not a time of gain like the main church. Yeah. Have you guys experienced anything with that or tried anything new?
Youth and children's are the two big, where it's funny because even when we talk to our youth pastor and children's pastor, it's like, hey guys, try whatever, because right. I think that is definitely the case of youth group is supposed to be really heavy on the fun side, and you talk about God and learn together. Well, how much fun can you have when you're not together? Like that is genuinely, and especially for children, you have an attention span of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to? And so what's interesting is that our children's pastor, has done stuff like on Easter that she went and dropped off a care basket, an Easter egg basket at every home of all the kids. She called all the parents ahead of time. All the parents said that it was okay. And so she would drop off Easter baskets. She'd hide. She called me and was like, okay, I hid exactly 20 eggs in the front yard, so make sure you find 20. Wow. And so she did stuff like that, which I was like crazy proud of, because I think it's really, I hear from like high school teachers, some of them are just not doing anything because they're like, it doesn't work as well, so they just stop. Mm-hmm. And so I'm super proud of a youth pastor, a children's pastor, anybody who is still trying to engage when it's not easy at all.
And I would say our youth pastor is just trying to stay connected to the kids we have. This isn't a growth time, so it's a maintenance time. So I think her mission is just, I'm going to stay connected. I think that's a great mission. I think we could think through some new things as it comes forward. And then our children's pastor, Jolene, she's been shooting a new video every day, taking all of her children's workers. And so she's been trying to do a daily thing for kids where they shoot and post a video every day for families to access if they want, and creating also printouts that families could print at home, and the kids could color and do stuff like that. So again, I think it's more of a maintenance. I think their focus is on the kids they have. Mm-hmm. I do think there's opportunity with like parades. Right now, the parades are the thing. Yeah. And I think there's opportunities that if you got your youth group kids in their own car and picked their friends to go do a parade for, I was just thinking that could really work, actually. Just say, Tori, our youth pastor, getting all the youth group kids, we're going to pick one of your friends, text them, tell them we're going to be in front of their house. We're do a prayer parade. Just let you know we're thinking about you, whatever, and just drive around the house a couple times. So it's just about being creative.
Yeah, I like that. And so I don't think we've cracked the code on those. And so let's all just keep talking, because everyone I'm talking to so far, those are two big areas. And then worship. I love what you guys are doing with worship, where you realize we don't have to use our people. We now have the whole world at our fingertips. Is that kind of what you thought?
Yeah, that's exactly what we thought. It was basically that we have a ton of really talented friends all over the world, both musically and even speakers. We're going to bring in a friend from London pretty soon, and just do kind of an interview thing. We're going to do panels pretty soon, just because, like, and one of the things that we talked about, which I think is kind of funny, is this is so much fun. This will absolutely change the way we do church moving forward. So for us, like right now, man, we have this huge pool of friends. I mean, these are men and women who are so talented that could never come out here. But, if it works, and right now it's like, it's not going to be a lesser experience because we're doing the same thing with Zoom with our own worship pastor. So it's like, It's going to be the same. So we just bring in fun people. And there's weeks where, like you said earlier, man, last week was one of the really special weeks where it was really, really moving. There was something about it where I was like, I just got up from my computer and just worshiped. It was really, really unique. So, and I think a lot of that is the heart of the worship leader too. Gary and Ashley are amazing guys. That happened with Elisa, to be honest with you, where I just kind of was away from, it didn't feel like a church Zoom call anymore. It didn't feel like a live stream. It actually felt like, oh, I'm worshiping God.
Right.
And it really moved me out of this. And then it was like, oh, okay, it was very cool.
And for us, with our worship pastor, we had a conversation with him. We just said, listen, this season is an opportunity. Like, we have all these friends we love that are talented, and he's such a great guy, Caesar. He's like, no problem. We just said, we have an opportunity right now to really go global with our Zoom calls. Why would we stay local? And so why not bring in all these people that we love and openly, like, oh, I wish you could meet them. I wish you experienced their worship. I wish. There's no more wishing. We could do that now. And so right away, with obviously David, your wife Elisa has led a couple of times and is leading this weekend. So just to be able to, and for us, by the way, that's fun. Yeah. We're so excited. All these people we've told stories about from preaching, now our people are actually going to experience them. And we're both thinking, like, who else can we bring in? Who else can we say, man, you need to meet them? And now it's possible.
Yeah. Is it DJ Cali that's doing the online turntables thing like every week?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's on Instagram. He's like, millions of people are hopping in his room. So I think a lobby with turntables, that's my suggestion to you guys.
You have wanted to do turntables since like the 90s.
Oh my gosh.
That.
When you did auto-tune, I go, finally, somebody's doing it.
Anyway, I have to admit, it was awesome. I was surprised because when it first started, I was like, we were doing rehearsals with him and stuff, and I was like, oh, this will be interesting. And then there was something about it. It came across so well. I was like, dang, and he has a great voice anyway, so it's not like he needed to auto-tune. It just something about it was so cool.
What I loved about him, and so we brought him in and just briefly, so talked to him about it afterwards, and he goes, I asked him, so what was with the auto-tune? Like, you know what I mean? He's a friend of mine since the first time I did ministry. And he said, you know what? I've never had much freedom before. And I prayed about it. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to be the man God's asked me to be. And this is how I want to lead worship. And so that's what he brought on Sunday. And I'm like, I just said, just so you know, that's the message of our church.
Yes.
I mean, just be who God is making you to be. So you went in with the right spirit automatically.
Yeah.
Even when you said that, I got chills. It's just, I think some people are embracing the moment, and it is showing. Two quick things, two other areas that people struggle with. How are you doing evangelism and assimilation? So evangelism, everyone's just assuming because they throw it on Facebook and we have 1,000 impressions, which means the average impression means somebody watched your service for 2 minutes. And I don't think people are being honest about that number. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can't really be looking at that. So how are you still trying to evangelize in a quarantined world?
I actually thought the 2 minutes seems long to me.
I'm actually surprised, but I'm actually more impressed with our numbers because I was more like someone clicked on ours on accident. 2,000 people accidentally touched on it.
I thought it was like they just scrolled by it. 2 minutes. I was like, oh shoot, they may have gotten something from that.
I got it.
Yeah, I thought it was way less. Evangelism, honestly, is the one. So evangelism and outreach, we have an amazing kind of social media person. Her name's Micah. She works for Bitwise, that same company. And when she got a hold of this, and she's been with us for a long time, so this isn't new to her. She has worked for some kind of high-level firms and stuff. We've had a number of people come to our building church before the whole thing happened, just because of our Instagram page, which I'm like, if that happens, that's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So she has always done that super well. Joe and I we kind of naturally before this also had a bit of an online presence, me with YouTube, Joe with Facebook. Joe posts almost every morning a prayer, a Bible study. So people know him, people know me from YouTube. We started a Tuesday and Thursday Bible study because we said, I think that this will help just more people stay connected, stay engaged. You know, there's still people going to work, but every week we've got anywhere from 20 to 50 that just jump on at some point just to hang out.
And Facebook Live, so people can get in there and watch. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so people, and the whole thing that we do with everything, none of it's pre-recorded, all of it is live, all of it is ask questions. So we have people, so even on a Sunday morning, we're saying pretty often throughout the service, if you're new here, or if this is your first time, post a comment, whatever. And the minute somebody puts, and I think every week someone has said, hey, my name's Jimmy, and this is my first time here. I'm shocked at like the hundreds of people who just flood him with, hey, welcome, so great to have you. This is cool. Yeah. And then Micah sends a specific email and then sets us up with them afterwards to where then we reach out with an email. We're going to start basically every visitor we have normally, we take out to coffee. So anyone who walks through our doors that fills out a newcomer's card, Joe and I take to coffee or lunch or dinner or something to sit with them. And so we're actually saying that now we're going to start doing that on Zoom because
newcomers
we just want to sit and talk to them and get to know them. And again, this is what's normal right now. So it's still a little bit weird, but we got to do it.
I'd say a couple things too. I think so. Both Ryan and I are definitely lean towards being evangelists. And so evangelism is four things. You're plowing, right? Because sometimes it's tough ground. You're planting, you're watering, you're harvesting. And I think we'll look back on this time if people are faithful to proclaim the message and make offers for people to receive Christ. I don't know if you'll be able to count the numbers, which shouldn't matter, but I think you'll look back and find a lot of people gave their life to Christ in your services online. And maybe they didn't fill out the message, or maybe they didn't come back on there. So I think right now it's more about being faithful to actually plow and plant and water, and then make sure you're making an offer. I think to be more committed to make sure you're presenting the gospel at the end of your services. And it's okay if you don't know. And I think it's the wrong mentality, because you're not going to know. But I think you'll be very happy afterwards saying, I gave my life to Christ on one of those group Zoom services, or those Zoom services brought me to a place where I would actually go to a church. And then I think for assimilation is you have to ask your people, what do you want them to do? I think in terms of assimilation, we haven't even talked about this. I think that the assimilation part of it should be, the first step would be either a newcomer Zoom or asking people to share your feed, because part of assimilation is becoming a part of the community. And one of the very few ways you can become a part of this community is join our Tuesday or Thursday Bible study, or share the feed. Introduce the rest of the people in your life to what you're watching. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, what are your expectations? What's the front door in this world? And we haven't really been talked tons about that, but those would be the things. Would be Zoom Bible study or share the feed would be a great first step for assimilation.
I think that a lot of us who do this church thing day in and day out, I agree with Joe 100%. And I think it's important to remember that for us, we think coming to church on a Sunday for your first time is normal, because we have visitors every week in our church, right? So it's a normal thing. I think we forget how big of a step that is for somebody who hasn't been in church in 15 years to walk in the door with a room of hundreds of people that they don't know and just expect them to do that. This is actually, and it's funny because as difficult as this is for people, I'm like, this makes it so easy for the new person to watch and hear you in the comfort of their home, and they don't feel guilty clicking off in 2 minutes. And I'm like, dude, if we could have somebody for 2 minutes, they get to hear 2 minutes of the gospel that they wouldn't have heard without us being on a live stream like this. Like, that's, again, I think that's actually cooler than them coming to our church, because I'm like, dude, they can do that on their own time. They can go back and listen to it. That to me, I'm like, what a fun, cool opportunity that I'm like, I'm honestly, I'm not mad about this craziness. I'm kind of like, dude, this actually gives us a cool opportunity to then hopefully springboard into more when we do get back into the building.
And I think it's about changing your scorecard. And I think that's where a lot of the churches are struggling is they've got the same scorecard.
Yeah.
And I was
but
like,
this was us from the beginning, right, Joe?
Like
we talked about this well over a year ago when we first got together. It was like, we don't want the same scorecard that we had working for all the other churches that we've worked for. I don't want to count the same way that we counted. I don't want to, because it's like, that's a metric for us, for no one else.
Yeah.
If somebody raised their hand, great. But did we take them out to coffee?
Right.
Did they keep coming back?
Which, by the way, that's a Dave Hopper thing, right? I mean, honestly, Dave, this is yours. This is one of the number one things we took from you, is taking people out to coffee. That's 100% from you.
For sure.
And it's been very few people that we've taken to coffee have not stayed in the church. That's simple. So if somebody said, well, how do you assimilate? I'm like, well, Hopper just took them to coffee, and we did. Very few people after one coffee said, I'm not coming back. That's an interesting concept.
And how many, I mean, I want to comment on something else, but how many of those people that you took to coffee have said, this is the first time a pastor's taken me to coffee?
Oh, constantly.
99%.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I've seen almost every pastor is starting to jump online and do a lot of posts through the week, which is awesome because there was none of it before. But what they still are, I hope what they're catching from this is you're engaging the audience to ask questions and having it be live and just being real instead of doing the 5-minute, they have cute names, and I have no problem with them. That's great. But I think you guys are doing some innovative stuff, and I love it. One more push into assimilation though. What's your first ask? Is it just to show up to the next thing, or do you have something you're like, we have the funnel, there's a lot more people coming and watching. What's that next thing to like click in a little bit deeper?
I got 3 of them, Ryan. So you probably 2. We're wrapping up Flow, but we're doing Zoom. We're doing basically discipleship online. So we'll start that again. We'll be doing our identity class and our newcomers on Zoom. So that'll be the next thing we're going to offer.
Oh, nice.
And then, and so we're going to keep doing that stuff. And then right now, automatically join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays for our Zoom Bible study. Smaller group, get to talk to people a little bit more, connect with them. But I would say once our identity class is up and once it's scheduled, we're just going to say, we have it. So we're going to do identity and we're going to do the newcomers and Flow. So we're driving them to the stuff that we think don't need buildings. Those aren't buildings-based concepts. Those are community-based. So we thought might as well do Zoom versions of them.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I think when this thing first hit, I laughed at how many people had never heard of Zoom. And I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have bought stock in Zoom.
Yeah, right.
Everybody and their mother knows about Zoom.
This is an
now.
Instacart. Oh, this is the chance of Instacart.
Oh.
Those numbers skyrocketed.
Oh, it's breathtaking. And what's funny is after this, they're poised to be the main go-to because they were here when, everybody needed it.
Yeah.
And so it was weird at first, even like, I remember our first leader meeting, like when we did our very first leader meeting on Zoom. I think it was within the first couple weeks of being quarantined.
It was quick. It was
quick. Just to get everybody together because we said we need to make sure that everybody is at least seeing each other. The number of people that were doing this bit, doing the low down, like, yeah, I'm on the Zoom call. What's up, guys? I'm like, you can see you have a camera screen. Like, how do you not see it?
Right. Nothing better than the phone ones where they're looking in the wrong phone side.
Oh, yeah.
Your camera's over here.
You don't know where your camera is, do you?
Still doing that, by the way.
Oh, but to go from that to where it's like now, most people are pretty good at this. They know to click the link. They know the meeting ID. They know
to mute themselves.
Yeah, they know to mute themselves. So they've gotten pretty good at it. So at first, it actually felt weird to be like, we're going to try and take somebody out to coffee or have coffee with them or do a newcomers class. That felt really weird in the first few weeks. But as we've talked over the last probably 3 to 4 weeks, we've said, okay, I think it's settled in enough to where we can do that. And so it was funny because I was actually thinking, man, are we late in having a lot of these conversations? We had them up front, but we were like, there's something about it doesn't feel right. Yeah. And I would say that for any pastor and anything, is always be kind of pushing the limit is like, when do we do this? But always do what the Lord, where it kind of feels right in your spirit to you say, man, this isn't us. We're not. And again, it was a conscious decision that we made, is that we're not super polished. We would rather have a ton of interaction. I mean, we do Q&A in our church. I mean, you started that with Brian Ross with us, you know, like do Q&A to let people ask a question after a sermon is mind-boggling in most churches.
Right.
That's the norm for us. So we want people to talk. During our sermon, literally, there's hundreds of comments. I mean,
ongoing jokes, which we're good with. Ongoing jokes, nothing to do with the sermon. We think it's fantastic.
And we laugh about it because we're like, here's the deal. This is who we are as a people. Like, think about it. We were brought up in the YouTube and Facebook, and like the crowd that we have around us right now, the main demographic of our church, is constantly texting me when Joe's preaching, constantly texting Joe
I'm
when
getting
I'm
snarky
preaching.
remarks the entire time.
So it's like we're already doing that. And instead of us trying to be like, no, you have to be quiet and respectful, it's interesting to go, why? Like, actually, in my sermon this last week, one of the questions that we asked is, what are the sacred cows that you have in your life that God is asking you to get rid of? And I'm like, one of them might be that sanctity of church, that when I'm talking, no one else gets to speak. I'm like, what? That's not how we function anymore. A
little bit of the kiss the ring experience. Kiss the ring.
Yeah.
I'm up on stage.
And it's interesting to know that, like, that's not who we are. And so you do have to take a little bit of a humble pie there and just go, you know what? I'm not that big of a deal. If somebody doesn't want to listen to me and they want to crack a joke with their friend, isn't that the community that we want? Like,
and they're not disturbing anybody else. Right?
That's the crazy, yeah.
You're not disturbing anybody else. You have no idea people are making fun of you all the time, the whole message all the time. I would say one other thing that was interesting is that we do that I thought has been really cool is we can't hear each other sing. So one of the things we did early on was ask people to write praise stuff during the worship time. And that, just hearing other people, like seeing them, it's like we're getting to hear their voice. Yeah. That's been so fun, just to see all the participation in worship through writing, because that's all they can do.
That's fantastic. Like, they'll put verses that are touching them and stuff.
They put verses or the lyrics to the main one that I see constantly, which I love, is just the lyric. So it's like, God, you've never given up on us. And somebody will write like, you never give up on me.
Never give up on me.
You never will. You never have. I'm like, man, it's just kind of a cool thing.
That's smart. This is why I love talking to you guys. Seriously, keep pushing everything, because I hope somebody watching this. There is so much good stuff here, and I'll be throwing links up as you guys were talking of your church and where they can find these things and see all this stuff. But I just really appreciate your time. You guys are both amazing guys, and you happen to be my friends. So it's good stuff, guys. Thank you.
Love you, guys. Thanks, bud.
Have an amazing